Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last episode we began our fourth chapter, Twisted Karma and His Last Bow, 8 days removed from our previous trial's conclusion, with Yujin Mikotoba and Seishiro Jigoku arriving in London for a symposium, being greeted by Susato and Ryunosuke as they were surprised to hear of Kazuma's survival. We then return home to Sholmes' suite, where we now question the great detective about his lies after witnessing a double redhead arrest. Mr. Sholmes, isn't it about time you told us the truth? Just over a week ago, you said to us, "I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. The great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that." That case aboard the SS Burlier in January. Kazuma wasn't killed, and you knew he wasn't dead at the time. So what was really going on? The fellow was unconscious for a very long time. If he hadn't regained consciousness when he did, his life would have been in mortal peril. Of course, a side effect of the prolonged comatose state was amnesia, as you now know. It was simple enough task to silence the crew. But how? After they'd carried him out of the cabin, I assembled them in the lobby area. Then I made them swear to leave him unconscious and have him unlaid from the ship in Hong Kong as a murdered corpse. Oh, how horrible! It was necessary to find some material with which to persuade the crewmen to keep their word, of course. But why? Why do it in the first place? I will be at liberty to elaborate in due course. But for the time being, I would like to reassure you. I didn't foresee subsequent events. What events? His disappearance in Hong Kong. Oh. I believe I may have made a gross error of judgment. Mr. Sholmes. Oh, you're not gonna tell me any more? Maybe you'll tell more if I examine your... I can't do that. The mask Kazuma wore when he was assigned to Lord Van Zeeks as his new apprentice. When he cast it aside after the trial the other day, I just sort of picked it up. We ought to give it back to him, I suppose. But he has his memory back now, doesn't he? And I can't help feeling he might turn around and tell me coldly to wear it myself. But isn't he your best friend? I don't know, but we've got to examine stuff here because we're supposed to, like, point out stuff about Sholmes' redhead, but at this point in time, I was hoping it'd be that, to be perfectly honest, because that was really obvious in the background. We have nothing to present him to tell him any different. So, we're going to have to get something. This looks like last week's edition. What's that article circled in red ink there? It's in an advertisement column. It says... To the Red Headed League. The Red Headed League? What's that? I don't know. I've never heard of it before, but... There's something on my face. Clearly this has something to do with that. Lively hair. The Red Headed League article has been entered into the court record. I guess that's what we're presenting them, not the mask. I can examine it a bit. To the Red Headed League, on account of the bequest of the late Ezekiah Hopkins of Lebanon, PA, USA, there is now another vacancy open, which entitles a member of the league to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on the morning of the 31st at the large park on Lime Street. Get £4 per week if you are a redhead. A most fantastic money-making opportunity. Really? There's so much to read there as well. I encourage you to pause it if you wish to read this right now. There's a public health report again. There appears to be a beginning of yet another cholera epidemic on the horizon. Although the cause of such outbreaks remains unclear, the public is strongly advised to drink only water which has previously been boiled. crazy stuff. Oh, it's presenting. No, I don't want to read it again. It looks as though someone circled an advertisement in the paper, Mr. Sholmes. To the Red Headed League. Does that strike you in some way? I was thinking that just maybe it might be related to your bright red hair. So, at last you've learned to apply my methods, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? In the first instance, and quite indispensable observation. Believe me, I could have seen that hair with my eyes shut. So then, allow me to regale you with the details of my latest exploits. Regale or boast. The Red Headed League. So what is the Red Headed League, which seems to be the subject of the advertisement you've circled? You noted in the paper then? That, my dear fellow, was going to be the source of this month's rent payment. It was? How? According to the advertisement, the Red Headed League is a distinguished institution of fellows of unspecified governance. In fact, the only condition for becoming a member is having red hair. That doesn't entirely surprise me. But listen to what the lucky redheads receive once they join. An unconditional salary of £4 a week. Oh my, £4 a week? But why? What are they paying people for? That I don't know. No details are given in the advertisement. Surely every red-headed person in the country would be flocking to join in that case. You're right, Susie. There's no time to lose. I'll put in my application at once. So will I. Just on the off chance. That might be stretching a point, I think. The trouble is, they have a fixed number of members, you see. Oh, I see. So once a certain number of people have joined, no one else can. But as luck would have it, one member recently passed away. It wasn't particularly lucky for the redhead in question, I feel, Mr. Sholmes. So you decided to try to join in his place? Correct. I mean, look at me. Have you ever seen such a red-headed fellow? No. So why? Why did it have to go so wrong? What on earth happened? A blunder, Mr. Naruhodo, though it pains me to admit it. What is the blunder? What did you actually do to your hair, Mr. Sholmes? I'm glad you asked, Miss Suzudo. What you see atop my head is neither dyed nor a hairpiece. I changed the color of my hair overnight. By the wonders of chemistry. Chemistry? I was conducting some research into a method of rejuvenating spent tea leaves. And in the course of my work, I stumbled upon a potion that, when taken, turns one's hair a flame-like red. Would you like to try it? It will make every hair on your body perfectly crimson. I think I'll pass. But Mr. Sholmes, is it quite safe to drink? Surely it's bad for you, isn't it? Amateurs are always hampered by such fears. Oh, I should never have doubted you, Mr. Sholmes. You mean to say... But of course... To earn £4 per week, one must be prepared to turn a blind eye to a little danger. That degree of red signals more than just a little danger, surely. So anyway, Hurley left full of confidence yesterday of his new red hair. For the park on Lime Street, where the Red Headed League were interviewing prospective new members. So what went wrong? The whole park was choked with red-headed folk, like a Costa's orange barrow. I queued for 8 hours solid before at last I reached the front. But when the panel of interviewers saw me, they immediately said, "Ah, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, are you in disguise to conduct an investigation?" So naturally I had no choice but to reply, "Shh, don't give me away." after which I could do little else but turn and leave. Then this morning, when I looked in the mirror, irritation stirred within me. So I turned that pair into the police. Oh dear, what a disaster for Hurley and those two redheads. Mr. Sholmes, you mentioned before that you were expecting a guest today. Indeed, Miss Susato, that is correct. Not another of those red-headed gentlemen that were here before. Not at all. They were petty villains. The guest I am expecting is a client. Oh. A young gentlewoman who wishes to appoint the services of this great detective, no less. Oh, how wonderful, Mr. Sholmes. You must stay and observe the fashion in which a great detective receives his customers. Must we? I have you in my clutches now, Rent, just as I have you in my clutches, redheads. That hearty laugh is masking rather sinister thoughts, I feel. You know, the lady isn't due for another hour yet. Don't feel as though you must wait around if you have other things to do. I guess she's not gonna be here for a while then. Off I go then, Iris. Down the list. So what are you two conversing about at the British Supreme Court? Lord Chief Justice's office. Here's the final draft of the opening address for tomorrow's proceedings. I've supplemented your original with the figures you asked for from the yard. I see. Excellent work, thank you. You're welcome, my lord. What's Lord Van Zeek's doing here? My, there seems to be an awful lot of tension in the air, wouldn't you say? This place is stifling enough as it is. We really don't need any more tension. My apologies. I didn't notice you come in. Your small stature and dark dress make you all but invisible to me. Oh, no. It's entirely my fault for wearing black, I'm sure. From now on, you must dress in white from head to toe whenever you come here. Now then, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. I'm right here. Oh, lordly people speak like this, don't they? Kill me now. Is something wrong? Perhaps it's a little too hot in here for you. Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I've never experienced a room at such a perfect temperature. If you're sure, the beads of sweat carving their way down your face seem to suggest otherwise. Because of the daggers you're staring at me with, mainly? As you're no doubt aware, my International Forensic Science Symposium begins tomorrow. In fact, your father arrived in London earlier today, I hear, madame. Oh, yes, that's right, my lord. He's extremely honored to have been invited. I'll leave the remaining preparations for the meeting room in your capable hands then, Lord Van Zeeks. I will attend at once. He gave you a very cold stare as he left, didn't he? I know, but I haven't done anything. Have I? These past few days, my feet have barely touched the ground, I must say. My dedicated right hand of many years was recently put out of action in spectacular fashion. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is your left hand still of service? Mr. Naruhodo, he's talking about Dr. Scythe. Oh, of course. I'm terribly sorry about that. I was just, fear not, you've done nothing wrong. Dr. Scythe's own wrongdoing precipitated the situation. You needn't concern yourself with it any further. That would be a lot easier to do if it weren't for the piercing stare you're giving me. Lord Van Zeeks is doing an admirable job of holding the fort. Though disturbingly, his apprentice has been missing since yesterday. Oh, missing? What's become of Kazuma-sama now? I guess the only way I can find out. Not long ago, visitor numbers to the Great Exhibition exceeded 30 million. 30 million? Are there even that many people in the world? As a comparison, Mr. Naruhodo, the population of the imperial capital Tokyo is 2 million. I will be opening the International Forensic Science Symposium in the exhibition's main auditorium. This event has been 2 years in the making. 2 years of preparations and negotiations with other countries. Sounds like a tremendous achievement. Congratulations. The 20th century will see the wholesale adoption of forensic investigation techniques. And cooperation between policing organizations around the globe will be essential. Which is why this landmark first symposium had to be hosted here at the heart of our great British Empire, in order that Scotland Yard can become the leading investigative organization in the New World. He's the same as ever, I see. That passion of his is quite something. You're every bit as passionate in your own way. I'm sure, Mr. Naruhodo. I am the only person in this country who truly cares about a future that embraces forensic science. It was my intention to become Her Majesty's Attorney General and reform the Yard from the ground up. So the disgrace of the forensic investigation team has been a bitter blow to my ambitions. I first established the forensic investigation team a year ago, experimentally to start with. With Dr. Sai at the helm, it was steadily accruing an impressive record of achievement. I was on the verge of changing his name and elevating its status to a full-blown forensic investigation department. And can you not do that now? Obviously, nobody wants to hear anything about it at the moment. Even I can't keep the story out of the papers. 6 million Londoners will be cursing forensic science now. This incident will set back our country's advancement in the field by a good 10 years, I'd say. Unintended repercussions of our trial. We simply couldn't have overlooked what had happened, though. Of course not. We should all be grateful to you both. Anyway, I'll still reform this country's policing when I become Attorney General. This might delay my plans, but it won't alter them. Nothing will stand in my way. The missing apprentice. About Lord Van Zeek's apprentice? Ah, yes, that came as a surprise to me, I must say, that you would hear, old friends. How did you become an apprentice to Lord Van Zeek's in the first place? It came about 3 months ago. An unidentified Asian man was apprehended by border police. They found him hiding aboard a large goods vessel. Oh my! So he stowed away to get here? He knew he had to get here? He had no papers to identify him, no passport, and he was suffering from amnesia too. Other than the fact he was clearly of Eastern descent, there were no clues as to who he was. So I decided to assign him to Lord Van Zeek's, that way I could keep an eye on him. But then, why the mask? I didn't want to burden Lord Van Zeek's with tiresome explanations about why he had an Eastern apprentice. Because it would be so much easier to explain why he was wearing a mask? He's proven to be a great help to Lord Van Zeek's. I have high hopes for his future. By the way, do you know where he's gone? No idea, but I believe he's left London for the time being. Oh. I take it you also didn't know that the man's father was one of our country's most infamous criminals, I mean, Genshin Asogi. What we learned from that trial 8 days ago was a huge shock. Finding out my friend's father was... Ah, yes, Genshin Asogi. The professor case 10 years ago caused a great stir here in Britain. They were such awful murders and unprecedented, using a ferocious dog as a murder weapon. And no one would have believed the culprit was a foreign student invited to study here by the government. So the true identity of the killer couldn't be made public then, and can't be made public now. Nobody in your country knows it was him, and neither do the citizens of London. The main motivation was to avoid aggravating relations between our two nations at the time, I understand. Correct. However, it has to be noted that there were some supporters of the professor's apparent cause. What? Supporters of a mass murderer? The majority of the man's victims were a blight on the aristocracy of the day. Somewhat ironically, their deaths actually benefited society as a whole. Also, a fair few fingers in London believed anyway. Right, I see. But it was still murder, wasn't it? It seems very similar, doesn't it? To the idea of the Reaper of the Bailey. Why you no talk no more? Why did you stop at talking then? I'm so interested now. Do you think everything's sorted there now? I guess we can check there before going to the Great Waterloo Hotel. That doesn't even seem like we got all the dialogue. Meanwhile, the doorbell's ringing as we arrive home. Aha! Here's my guest now, my latest client, with money to spend. Oh, I do hope it's an exciting case, Hurley. Remember, Iris, we are at present gripped by the greatest problem known to man. I must be willing to accept any case, no matter how unstimulating. Save locating a runaway, of course. Don't spare anyone's feelings, will you? Oh dear, I'm afraid that Hurley can lack a little tact, especially just before the rent is due. Mr. Sholmes! Mr. Hairlock Sholmes! Please, oh please! Please find my husband. He's run away! Oh, really? To upset me? I beg your pardon? Never mind. A personal matter. My apologies. What exactly are you trying to say, Mr. Naruhodo? I didn't say a word. Come, my dear madame, be seated. Iris, some tea, if you please. Of course. What's the matter, Miss Susato? Oh, it's just that gentlewoman. I feel sure I've seen her somewhere before. Very recently. Yes, now that you come to mention it. As I explained earlier, my name is Evie Vigil. I implore you to take the case, sir. Money is no object. Simply name your figure. Money and wealth are of little consequence to me, madame. Being offered a case to solve is reward enough. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you are the picture of benevolence. I will, of course, make a mental note of your offer, however, for contingent reasons. I trust you will remember your words also. If I might inquire, sir. This gentleman and lady would be? Oh, me. What I am about to tell you, I should like to communicate in the strictest confidence, you understand? Ah, these are my friends. I assure you, you may say before this pair anything which you may say to me. Ah, I see. I can vouch for the gentleman personally. After all, he's hard of hearing. Why did I ever get my hopes up? Okay, let's talk to you then about things. Mrs. Vigil, Mr. Vigil, and your husband's disappearance? Let's start with you. Forgive me for asking, Mrs. Vigil, but have we met somewhere before? Quite recently, perhaps. Oh my! Sure, my dear fellow, what is your intention? Clearly you have no ability to differentiate the facial features of the English. If you wish to invite the lady to tea, you must do so in a more gentlemanly fashion. Is it possible that you're the nice young lawyer from the trial I attended last week? Ah, I knew I recognized her. To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. I didn't quite recognize her because she's acting so differently now. It must be very difficult for you as a lawyer. Being hard of hearing, I mean. Pardon? Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Don't worry if you can't hear. It was frippery, really. Nothing more. Now look what you've started, Mr. Sholmes. Thank you very much. I believe it would be prudent for you to sit quietly in the corner. Yes. Tell us about your husband, madame. Mr. Vigil, my daily, is 40 years of age. I have a photograph here. Daily Vigil, Evie Vigil. An entirely unremarkable gentleman by appearance, at least. How long have you been married? It will be 15 years this year. We have a cordial relationship and my husband's income is more than adequate, so we live quite comfortably. As it would appear, I need only look at you to know these things. Oh, gosh! Your dress is the latest style, your hat clearly regularly groomed, and your eyes are animated. In short, you have no inkling as to why your husband might have disappeared, correct? That's right. He's a kind man with a strong sense of loyalty, and he rather dotes on me. Which would point to the possibility that he has become embroiled in some incident or other. Oh, that is exactly what I fear must have happened, Mr. Sholmes. I'm quite beside myself. My husband's employment is somewhat unusual, you see. What if he's incurred some miscreant's ill will? What exactly is your husband's line of work? He's a warder at the prison. A guard? That is somewhat unusual. So, your husband is a prison warder? That's right, yes. Well, in actual fact, he's the chief warder. Indeed. I see. Well, chief prison warder certainly qualifies as something of a specialist occupation. Yes, it does indeed. My poor husband must prepare those dreadful punishments. I see that they're carried out. Dreadful punishments? Does she mean capital punishments? And at such times, he must occasionally spend a night or two in the prison dormitory. But for that extra responsibility, he is remunerated more handsomely than the other warders. Of course, we make no mention of my husband's work to the neighbors. Yes, I believe your prudence is justified. Tell me, at what prison is your husband engaged? Berkeley Prison, Mr. Sholmes. Really? Berkeley? Oh, a fine establishment. If I'm not mistaken, there is a large cemetery just behind it. Yes, that's correct. Lowgate Cemetery. No. Lowgate Cemetery? The very place we were discussing in court. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable, my dear fellow. And yet undeniable. Sorry, Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid you've lost me. Ah, pay no heed, madame, pay no heed. A private matter. This can't really be a coincidence, can it? So, to the matter of your husband's disappearance. When did you realize he was missing? Please try not to laugh. It was yesterday. I'm sorry, yesterday? That really is recent, laughably so. The truth is, my husband does at times have occasion to spend the night away for his work. It's not at all out of the ordinary for him not to return home at night, but this is different. For him not to make any contact for a whole day, that has certainly never happened before. Oh, my dear Daly, whatever could have happened? My dear Mrs. Vigil, please calm yourself. Now then, have you contacted the police? Why, naturally, but sadly, they refuse to listen to my pleas as my husband has only been missing for 1 day. I was asked to wait patiently at home. In truth, Mrs. Vigil, I concur with the police. However, let us not be hasty. I see no reason why we should not engage my deductive powers to track your husband down anyway. Oh, thank you, Mr. Sholmes. And furthermore, let me assure you, a chance to solve the greatest problem known to man for another month has no bearing on my decision. I seek only to put a sweet smile on another Londoner's face. That's really all there is to it. You have my eternal gratitude. I shall pay any sum you care to mention. You seek only to put this sweet's rent in your landlady's purse. That's all there is to it. Thank you for everything you have shared with us, Mrs. Vigil. I believe I have all the information I need to begin my investigation. Oh, please report to me soon with good news, sir. Fear not, madame. In a day or two, I shall be contacting you with a heartening report, I'm quite sure. So soon? Oh, how splendid, Mr. Sholmes. Good news should be delivered early, I always say. If you would be so kind as to leave the photograph of your husband in my possession. Okay, appears to have no particularly distinctive facial features. Thank you. Now, allow me to show you the door. I can't thank you enough, Mr. Sholmes. You've been simply marvelous. You know, I think it every time, Hurley. How do you come out with such nonsense? Good news in a day or two? Are you sure? I can't be sure, of course, but then I didn't swear on it. I merely gave the good woman some hope. I hope to be able to give her good news, one might say. After all, the rent must be paid by the end of the day tomorrow. If by that time I've successfully located Mr. Vigil, we shall be mutually relieved. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Don't look at me with those pleading eyes. Well, my dear fellow, did you hear the details of the case? Yes, my hearing is surprisingly good, actually. Excellent. And what did you make of it? Well, I was surprised to learn where her husband worked. At Berkeley Prison, I mean. Ah, so you noted that. Of course, especially with the mention of Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Berkeley Prison, so it was renowned among the students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. Berkeley Prison is where that notorious man was incarcerated. The professor. And now a warder from the prison has mysteriously disappeared, it would seem. It's all very peculiar. Indeed. But nothing you can't handle, I'm quite certain, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? Run along to the prison and see what you can glean, would you? It's the prison governor you want. No doubt the man is equally worried. But aren't you going to go yourself? Surely you needn't ask. I can't possibly be seen out with this hair. But didn't you go to Lime Street with that hair? That was a quite different matter. So I leave it in your capable hands. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm rather busy. Of course you are. And so comes to the end another episode of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where we now have to go to a prison to search for a missing gentleman who's only been missing for one day, but it was a prison warder of the place where an execution was, not successful-ish. I'll say ish because, of course, we know what happened afterward. So, with that said and done, we wonder if there is a link. Of course there is. We'll find out more next time on the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.